Hello my friends and welcome to what I hope is a cozy, comforting, inspiring draw with me video. I'm going to be drawing a bunch of wildflowers with Caran d'Ache Neocolor 2 pastels in my Talons sketchbook, which is a new one to me, but I'm really enjoying it so far. Something that I personally really love is when someone else does the footwork of figuring out what to draw, because that's often what holds me back from being able to just sit down and start drawing. So I have done that for you here. I have collected a whole bunch of photos of wildflowers that are what I use as my references here, and I will put the link to the Pinterest board for those photos in the description of this video so that it's very easy for you to just click onto that, have it open in another tab, whatever works best for you to be able to just follow along and draw flowers as well. And then that way, if there's a picture that I'm using that you don't love, you can just pick a different one, but we're still kind of doing the same thing together. Or of course, you're always welcome to work on whatever you need to do right now. This can just be cozy company along with whatever you have to do today. The first flower that I wanted to draw were asters because there are tons of these in bloom in the forest where I like to walk my dogs near my house right now, and they're just so beautiful. Like there's this one particular section where it's just like a sea of purple. There's so many of them, and I find something about them really charming. I can't really put my finger on what it is, but they're just a really sweet little wildflower. I love flowers that, I don't know if there's a proper term for this. Please tell me if you know it, but like when it, like daisy style flowers that have like a center and all the little petals coming out around it. Like there's definitely a family of flowers that are like that, as opposed to like a flower like a tulip or I don't know, like a carnation, like that it just have a different structure to them. So if anybody knows, I'd be super curious. So I've only had these Caran d'Ache pastels for not even a month yet. If you have seen my last video, I treated myself to them for my birthday and I really love them. I had seen them in lots of other people's YouTube videos and just kind of fell in love with the texture and the water blending ability, and I really like them a lot. I'm really still getting familiar with them and learning the techniques to use with them that feel like me and match my style, but I feel like I really came a long way in understanding them just by doing this spread that you'll get to see me do here. The next flower that I chose to draw were forget-me-nots, which are another favorite, although I don't know, I can't really pick a favorite with wildflowers, they're just all so nice. When I think about forget-me-nots, I think about how one of my favorite local artists is like a resin jewelry artist who makes her pieces out of lots of dried flowers, and they're all locally picked, which I just think is so lovely. And I have on my keys a keychain that she made that has forget-me-nots in it, which I didn't even think about this when I was buying it, but they're forget-me-nots for your keys, so you don't forget your keys. And I was slightly in awe at the genius of it and how I didn't even notice it or need to have noticed it to still want to buy it anyways. And now it's my absolute favorite keychain, and if I ever lose it, I'll be so upset. The next flower I chose to draw were poppies, and my opinion and experience with poppies has changed a lot over the years. I think they're so beautiful now. I love how they kind of look like tissue paper. I remember when I was little, my only association with them was Remembrance Day, so they seemed like a really sad flower to me. But I've mentioned this on my channel before. You may or may not know this about me, but I work with seniors in a day program, generally folks who have dementia or Parkinson's or other life-limiting conditions as we describe it. And we had this client who I really liked a lot. He was the sweetest guy and was just so easy to talk to, and he just loved making jokes and having fun, and despite the things that got in his way, he was just always so optimistic and easy to talk to and fun to have around. And he unfortunately passed away last year, and it was really sad and really hard. It was the first experience I'd had in this job actually losing a client, other than them moving into a facility that made them ineligible for being part of our program anymore. But one of my favorite memories of this client is he would always talk about the poppies that he and his wife grew in their yard. He was so proud of them, he really loved them. And one day I was on my lunch break, and he had excused himself from the room to come down the hallway, and he handed me an envelope full of poppy seeds that he had collected from the poppies in their garden. And it was just, the whole act of it was so sweet, and I always think of him now when I see poppies, and I really appreciate that this flower that I see everywhere is now something that reminds me of someone who I have special memories with. And it's really nice. I think that flowers are they have such a unique ability to do that. Like, they become, just like things like smells and music, they're something that we end up associating with other things and can spark memories, and whether they're bittersweet or purely happy or purely sad, I think it's a beautiful thing to have that, and I'm grateful that I got to have that experience with him, and now that I have this thing that reminds me of him. For these chamomile flowers, I decided I was going to try and experiment with using negative space, which is something that I'm not super comfortable with, not very good at, but I love seeing it in other people's work, and I think it is super interesting and a neat way to kind of fill a background and have some nice contrast between your subject and the background. But it's going to take a lot more practice for me to get comfortable with it, and the only way to do that is to just let it be uncomfortable and make stuff that doesn't look that great. So I've been talking a lot lately about how I'm trying to learn how to approach art with a more compassionate mindset and let myself make stuff that doesn't look good, because it's all part of the process of growth, and how I think social media makes it really hard to do that, because when you feel compelled to share stuff on social media, you want it to look nice, you don't want to feel judged by sharing things that aren't perfect. But I think one of the only things that we can do to make social media a better place, if we're going to continue to use it, is to focus on being real and sharing things that are unfinished or not perfect, or things that aren't our best work. And so I'm really adamant about doing that. But it is really hard, because I think we all face this invisible pressure that you have to be amazing or exceptional or have something unique that stands out about you to be worthy. And I think that the media perpetuates this, because the examples of people that we see everywhere we look in the media are of exceptional people who are at least exceptionally good at something, if not many things, a lot of the time so exceptional that it's just unrealistic for the average person to compare themselves to. And it's funny, I went to see the Barbie movie last night, and I won't give any major plot spoilers, but this is kind of one of the main themes that I took away from the movie, is that the examples of people that are on display, whether it's Barbie or whether it's Margot Robbie or whether it's any other person in the media, just naturally make us feel worse about ourselves when we don't live up to these examples that we see. I think as people, we're just inherently wired to compare ourselves to the other people around us. It takes a lot of effort to go against that natural instinct. And I think one of the antidotes to this is just surrounding yourself with media and people and examples to follow that are realistic and genuinely inspire you and make you want to be your best self in a healthy way, and learning how to think through and combat being faced with examples that maybe are not so healthy and make you start to judge yourself or be self-critical. And I'm sure that's different for everybody. But for me, this means that I never follow social media accounts of celebrities who are celebrities just because of how they look, because those people are beautiful and it's like so hard not to make comparisons. So I just don't let myself do it. I have nothing against these people. I just can't see them on my feed every day, because then I look in the mirror and like wonder if I need to be doing more to make myself look as perfect as possible all the time, when I know that there's a point where I feel good about myself when I put effort into my appearance, and then there's a point where going beyond that just is vain and doesn't do me any favors. I don't know if this is something a lot of other people experience, but I find I really struggle with comparing myself to people in movies and TV. Like, when I watch a movie with a really beautiful actress like Margot Robbie, for example, it's really hard to walk away from that movie not thinking like about how I'm gonna change how I do my hair or dress differently or start working out more so that I can look more like that. And I don't really know what to make of that. Like, I don't think the solution is to just stop watching movies and TV, and I don't think the solution is to fully lean into and embrace doing that, but it's a really tricky issue. And I think that the movement to have more average, real, in quotations, looking people in advertisements and stuff like that, not doing so much airbrushing, like that's all fantastic, but it's still gonna happen all the time. And even in more low-key kind of places, like for example, I also experienced this as an artist and comparing myself to other artists that I see online. I think it's just a natural human experience, and it's our job to address it and figure out how to cope with it in the way that works best for us. And to bring this all back to why I even brought this up in the first place, one of the places that I go for genuine inspiration and where I see people who I want to compare myself to, and comparing myself to them actually is of benefit to me and helps me grow as a person and an artist, is on YouTube, and finding people who are living their lives in a way that I want to model mine after and have attitudes that I aspire to adopt. And it's just such a great place for that. It's such a great place to see real people doing real things, and it's kind of unique in that way. Like, there's TikTok, and I mean any social media does that in some way, I guess, but the way that YouTube works makes it possible for quote-unquote normal people to have a big following and make entertainment content that can be consumed on a large scale. And it's completely self-directed. Like, you don't need anyone else's permission to make it the way you want to and make something that you'd want to watch. And it's so cool. I'm glad it exists, and I am glad that I have the means to try and approach it in my own way and do that myself, although it's frustrating sometimes, just like any other social media. But I am grateful that this platform exists and it's used the way that it is, and I hope that I can't say I hope it doesn't change, because of course it's going to change, but I hope it continues to change for the better. Now, all of that is not to say that YouTube doesn't have its downsides and it's not dangerous in an addictive way, just like other social platforms are. I think it's really important to stay vigilant about how your use is affecting you on any social media platform. But I personally find that I check in with myself and how I'm feeling after spending time on social media platforms, and I, every once in a while, when using YouTube, feel bad about myself and feel like I've wasted my time, but so often I finish watching a video and it makes me want to log off and go do something, get outside, make some art, just feeling good about myself and rejuvenated. And I think that's wonderful, and I think there's nothing wrong with that, but it can be very easy to get yourself down YouTube rabbit holes. But anyways, my goal as a person on YouTube is to make content that does what I just described, makes people want to make art, get outside, try things they haven't tried before. And I hope that comes across, but if it doesn't, I'm going to be continually working on it and figuring out how I can do my best at that as long as I'm on here. The ones I just finished were Cosmos, and now I'm starting on some, I believe, Black-Eyed Susans. A Google image search tells me that they're actually Brown-Eyed Susans, which I didn't know they existed, but it kind of looks like the Brown-Eyed Susans are kind of like baby versions of Black-Eyed Susans, like they're a little smaller and the petals are a little stumpier, which I like. It's nice to have flowers to draw that have contrasting lengths of petals and styles and stuff like that. These ones end up being, I think, my favorites that are on this spread. I really like the way that the colors turned out. Through doing this page, I found a technique with the neocolors that I really like, which is making these like squiggly lines and then using water to kind of blend them out, but just a little bit, so you have some of the color kind of spreading around and blending, but then you still have a little bit of definition from the lines you've made. And I think it's a really cool way to give like that greenery background of like bushes or leaves or whatever that are kind of behind your subject. So that was pretty cool, and I wouldn't have found that if I hadn't just been playing around in the sketchbook. They make it really easy to get that nice mix of texture of the watery blended color and then the lines from the crayon, and I think that suits my style really well, and I'm excited about it. Thank goodness for Google image search for these last couple that I didn't know the names of. This one is apparently called round lobe hepatica or mouse ears or liver leaf. Definitely wins for the strangest name of all the flowers that I drew today, but it is definitely very beautiful. I really like the color. It's got the center of it looks really interesting, and I wasn't happy with how it came out the way that I tried to draw it with these, but that'll be something for me to come back to and experiment with, because it's got some interesting color in there, and I'll probably, coming back to the topic of negative space, need to figure out how to use some negative space to make that look right. So it's always nice when I'm drawing stuff and it inspires me to come back to do it again later and gives me more ideas of what to work on later. We are nearing the end of the video, not quite there yet, so let's do some wrap-up kind of things, like remind you to like this video, hit subscribe if you want to see more like it, follow me on Instagram if you want to be along for the ride on my art journey. Instagram is the place where I share a lot of like updates of what I'm working on. I kind of treat my Instagram feed like a portfolio of my work, but I do share a lot of like work in progress kind of stuff on my stories. Also pictures of my dogs and cute life stuff. And I also kind of new-ish have a Discord server. I really love like art community Discord servers, and so I wanted to make one of my own that was just free to access for anybody who wants to, because all of the cool ones I'm on are like Patreon based, so I only have access to them because I'm a patron of the person who runs them. And I just kind of thought like I would love to host one that you don't have to pay anybody to be part of. So for the time being, while I can, it's a free to access server. It's been a little quiet lately, which is part of why I need to start remembering to share it. So there's links to access it in all of my various places. You can see my links. Hop on there, introduce yourself, like post things on the different channels. Hopefully you'll get some excitement going on there again if we get a few more new friends on there. I'm also totally open to what like channels we should put on there. Like if you want to add like a new kind of text channel, I will totally take suggestions for that. If you have watched to the end of any of my last couple of videos, you will know that I have started doing this thing lately where I will share something fun and interesting with you at the very end of the video to entice you to watch all the way to the end. And the thing I'm going to share with you this week is kind of like a fun, silly story. So last weekend, my fiance and I were gone with our band on, or sorry, this wasn't last weekend. This is like 2 weeks ago now, I guess. Anyways, we were gone for a few days on tour with our band, and my mom and dad were staying at our house to watch Penny and Parker. And when I got home, I noticed this tiny little duck sitting on my spice rack, and I knew my friend Jackson had been over as well, because he brought his dog over to play with ours to help keep him entertained while we were gone. And I knew it was like right up both of their alleys to leave something like that for me to find. So I texted a picture to both of them to try and gauge their responses and see who did it, and I could not tell from what they said who it was. But then my mom said something really cheeky like, "I heard that those ducks only inhabit the main floors of houses and they will not be inside of drawers," or something like that. And I was like, okay, it was you. And then I started looking around and I found a couple more. And then a couple more. And I texted my mom more photos of where I found them. And then she said, "Did you notice anything special about these ducks?" And so I flipped one of them over and it had the number 50 on it. So she hid 50 of these tiny ducks all over the main floor of our house. And we just have been slowly finding them over the last couple weeks. The rate that we've been finding them has definitely slowed down, but I think our count right now is at like 46. So either there's 4 more hidden somewhere, or she pulled the ultimate prank to mess with us by writing 50 even though there was actually only less than 50 ducks, just to try and drive us crazy. But I thought it was a really cute, harmless prank, and I think we're gonna keep the ducks to do that to someone else if we're ever looking after someone's house for them. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that it gave you what you were looking for. If you are interested, I've got a few more videos like this one, and I plan to make more like it in the future, so I hope you will stick around. And also, I love reading comments, so please, if you have a moment, go ahead and leave me a comment on something you thought about during this video, what you like to draw, what your favorite of these wildflowers were if you were drawing along with me. Just really anything at all. I would love to see it. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you in the next video.